With all the demands of life and the influences around us vying for our attention and our time, how do we set up a framework that helps us understand when to say yes and when to say no? In this video, we will go into detail into just that, how to purposely guide the way we fill our time. Hi, I'm Kenna, and I help parents inspire an environment of learning in their home. I'm glad you're here. In a previous video, I talked about home culture. And this is one of the benefits of having a good, solid home culture, is that you will understand when to say yes and when to say no when opportunities present themselves. To do this, to clearly define what is worthy of our time and energy, we need to get really clear about what we most value. Lisa Grace Burns calls this your true yes. And here's the question that she suggests that you think about to help define this. What people, commitments, and areas of my personal growth get my top priority? I invite you to reflect on that question, brainstorm that question, free write about that question, and really start to see what thoughts and feelings flow so that you know what is important to you and what you most value and what your true yeses are. And as you're brainstorming or free writing on this, I want you to do it without any judgment yet, just curiosity. Just see what comes out, and then you can pull out the data after. You can brainstorm why these yeses came to your mind. You can brainstorm what matters most to you about those true yeses. If you decide, for example, that your kids are one of your true yeses, then why? What do you want them to know and feel and do as a result of the ways you fill your time and the things you do? What matters most to you? Define the purpose or goal of friend interaction or community interaction. And of course, this doesn't always have to be the question, what's in it for me? It can also be, what should I be doing, or what's best to serve the world as well, right? Sometimes we give selfless time because it does align with our true yes, right? When there is conflict or unease with any part of your schedule, you can reflect on this again and you can say, why does this feel? Why am I discontented with the way things are going? What is it that I need to define? And you can brainstorm free write about that particular conflict that's going on in your heart and mind. For example, a few years ago, our family moved to across the valley, and we were farther from our friends, but we were still 25 minutes from where we used to live. So we were 25 minutes now from our life and our friends, and we still wanted them in our life. But it was a little bit harder to negotiate what that looked like because it took a lot of time. And none of my kids were old enough to drive at the time. And so, of course, my older kids wanted to spend a lot of time with their friends, but it required me driving and picking them up. When it's a 5-minute drive, it was no big deal. But when it was a 25-minute drive each way, it added up. And we had to figure out what was the most worthy use of our time. Now, this could have gone a lot of ways. We knew that friends were important to us, and we knew that those friends were important to us, and we really wanted to cultivate those relationships. We also knew we didn't want to be in the car all the time, and that the parents' time mattered too, right? We didn't want all of that time spent in the car. And so what we did in that case, I'm just giving you an example to get your juices flowing about what this might look like. But that year that we first moved, we ended up with a schedule where Friday night, I would say yes, unless I had a really good reason to say no to friend time. And so they could go play games, and they could go do night games, and they could go hang out, and I would get them there and pick them up happily. And I would say yes, unless there was a really good reason to say no. But on Saturday, my default was no. I would say no, unless there was a really good reason to say yes. I always left room for spontaneity and important things that might not line up with those days, right? I gave myself permission to say no or yes on the days that weren't the default answer, but those were my default answers on that day. And it made it easier because my kids knew what to expect, and when they had a Saturday event, they didn't take it personal because it was just part of the conversation and part of what we were trying to create as a family. And it still fulfilled the need to go be with friends and to nurture those relationships and to do those things that were important. And that's one example. And you can let these guidelines create your family schedule, and implement them into the flow of your life. If you know that something is a big yes, give it more time in your life, right? And of course, leave room for the spontaneity. We know in our family that if there's big service to be done, we drop our family schedule and we go do it. And that is okay because it aligns with one of our biggest, truest yeses and one of the biggest, most important things in our home culture. So it feels okay, and we know that that's okay. As long as it doesn't happen all the time, we are willing to drop it for certain things. So take some time to reflect on those questions yourself and figure out what it is that drives you. What's your most important values, and are they reflected in your schedules, your routines, the way you interact with people, the way you interact with time? Reflect on that and see if that helps you know when to say yes and when to say no. I have a gift I would like to give to you. I created a PDF of 10 things that you can do to create a home environment of learning and also to cultivate that intentional leader that you are within yourself. And I made that PDF. I have it available on my website. I will put the link below in the description box. Please click over there and grab that. Thanks for watching. Here's to you for taking the time to reflect on the things that matter most to you so that you can lead with intention and create the home environment and the home culture that you desire. You've got this.